Okay, so that brings us back to Michael R. of Easton, Pennsylvania. Hi, Matt. Hope all is well with you and yours. Here's my question for Dave. Hi, Dave. I'm back. It's been a busy summer at work, and Grace and I are getting a lot of stuff done at home. Yeah, they're doing a lot of renovations. I think a lot of people are doing that with the COVID-19 thing. They were already embarked on that, but the last time that I was in touch with Michael and Grace, I think they had redone all of the floors, which, if you've ever redone a floor, you know is no small task. While I was winding down last week, I decided to rewatch the Cerebus High Society audio-visual issues. And for people who don't know that he was what he's talking about there, that was the IDW project, which was me doing all of the voices in High Society, acting it out basically as a radio drama. And George Peter Gatzis produced that, basically shepherded me through the whole process of recording, told me what recording device to buy, and then took the raw tapes of me doing all of that and added sound effects and et cetera, et cetera. Michael goes on, I am amazed and in awe with the work and effort that was made to get this done. From all your voices, the special effect background sounds and music make this over the top in production value really good. And yes, thank you for saying that. Part of me was happy that it was unsuccessful. That actually brings him to his question. Maybe let's see if this covers it. My questions are: one, was there any feedback from this Kickstarter? I can't remember. And it wasn't a Kickstarter. It was an IDW project.
It started as a Kickstarter.
What's that?
It started as a Kickstarter. That was the first Kickstarter.
Was it? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they just solicited for it.
No, it was a Kickstarter because I have a copy, but my copy is all, okay, you backed it, here are the links to download it. I don't have a physical copy of the discs.
Okay. All right. Well, that sort of changes the complexion of my answer a little bit. Maybe you can plug in some information on that. The goal was to raise money to make Cerebus Digital 6000 a reality. What has changed on making this a reality? And what changed on that was that IDW ultimately lost a lot of money on the Cerebus audiovisual Kickstarter. I think that when they solicited Diamond for it, the Diamond got orders for like 7 copies or something like that. So, any plans on creating another one? No. Again, that was partly a situation on my side where, okay, that was high society. Am I really up to doing church and state, which is, whatever, more than twice the length of high society? And am I up to being able to do all of Cerebus's 6,000 pages the same way? And it was one of those, yeah, if it's enormously successful, if this just becomes something that no household on the entire planet can do without, is Cerebus Digital High Society, and then I'll be happy to keep going. But it's one of those, I only have so much money coming in, so I'm always having to figure out what's the thing that's going to bring in the most amount of money and that's pretty much the thing that I will do. So so you got a digital copy of it.
Yeah. If I remember right, the Kickstarter was, we're going to remaster all the trades, or we're going to digitize all the trades, because that was you lost the negative printer. The printers that would use the negatives, they all wanted digital offset printing, and so you had to convert everything. And the first Kickstarter was, we're going to do the ultimate bells and whistles digital high society. So you got a digital version of the issue with cover, inside cover, the story, the back matter, then all the notebook pages tied to those issues. I want to say, what else was there in there? Oh, and then
there was all of the collected letters for the time period as well.
Yeah. Like, if I remember right, there were scans of anything in the archive that had to do with whatever issue it was. So, like, there were receipts that Denny had written out that
right.
were, you know,
right.
the phone records. Because that was when you got to the, how obsessive are we going to be about this? Do you guys really need the phone bill for September 1982?
Right. I mean, it's the Cerebus archive isn't complete, but where it has stuff, it definitely has stuff. This was one of our first examples of going over the edge on that, or starting to go over the edge. But from my standpoint, it was, if this actually works, then that diversifies the Cerebus archive so that X number of people now own it in digital form, and makes it far less easy for cancel culture, which I definitely saw on the horizon and was one of the first to experience, going, well, okay, how thorough are those people going to be if they decide that not only do we not consider Dave Sim a human being, we've decided that nothing that Dave Sim ever produced or is associated with should be treated as something that should exist. You know, everybody over the off-White House, we're going to have a big book burning and destroy everything connected with Dave Sim.
The other thing with the audio-visual that was really interesting and fascinating at the time is you got Denny to come back and read all the notes from the publisher.
Right.
And that was one of those where, when it was announced, I'm like, well, either they're making a bunch of money or Denny's just really bored.
Or it's like, you know, Cerebus is the thing that she's known for. So it's, to whatever extent you can cooperate on it, let's cooperate on it. But bottom line, I think it was overkill, which was kind of the same thing that happened to Cerebus Archive, the comic book. It was, okay, you know, I finished my 26 years and 3 months on Cerebus, and now one of the things that I want to do is to explain the history of it as thoroughly as possible. This is where Cerebus came from, because like all stories having to do with individual human lives, when you go all the way back and say, okay, this thing met up with this thing, met up with that thing, and it led to this thing over here, I will now work to explain that. And it was one of the Cerebus fans that seemed to be a spokesperson Cerebus fan said, well, I'm not buying this until Cerebus shows up in it. And it's like, well, I'm explaining where Cerebus came from. Cerebus isn't going to be in it for a good long while. Here's the entire background of, you know, Dave Sim and his career choices and what was going on in his life. And it's like, well, okay. With that attitude, Cerebus Archive, the comic book, just staggered along for 18 or 19 issues, and it's like, okay, this is this is no longer viable. Again, I have to make a living at this, and if it's not something that enough people are going to buy, and there were people actively recommending that people not buy this, well, okay, then the story will have to just remain in raw form in the Cerebus archive, and Eddie Kana gets stuck with it, or whoever Eddie Kana decides to pick to actually put all of this together. Well, there you go. There's all of the raw materials. I was trying to do my best Reader's Digest version of. So how did Cerebus come to be so successful? How did that whole thing get started? Well, okay, I can't do that in a conversation, but having finished my 26 years in 3 months and Cerebus now being dead, I will do my best to answer that. And then, like I say, that staggered on for 3 years and 5 monthly issues. And, well, okay, I was going to do my best, and now it's just not going to happen.
My problem with Cerebus Archive was that when Jeff was visiting me one time, he printed off the first issue because he had the files, because he was the online guy of trying to promote this book. And he printed it off and said, "Here, you need to read this." So I have a bootleg of #1, and when I went to order it, the store that I use locally, the manager got fired, the owner died, the manager was still running it, the family wanted to keep it open in his memory, and after a couple of years, they realized that running a comic book store is not the money-making opportunity they thought it was.
Right.
And so they fired the manager. The previous owner's nephew took over, didn't know what he was doing, didn't know who to ask for help, and within a month, here's how it got so bad that Paula went there for Free Comic Book Day, and they didn't have any new comics. Not free comics, any comics. They didn't know how to do the diamond order, so they weren't ordering comics anymore.
That's a tough way to run a business.
And when the management changed hands, I went down and they had a pile of statues that somebody had ordered and not bought, and they were going to donate them all to Goodwill because they didn't know what to do with them. And I'm like, first off, these are anime girl statues. Goodwill won't accept them.
As a matter of fact, they might call the cops on you.
Second off, these particular statues are probably an investment in the store's income of probably a few hundred, if not $1,000. Are you sure you just want to give them away?
Right.
They had I'm trying to remember. They had something for a Marvel Superheroes game. It was Galactus, and it was an exclusive thing. And they were gonna, that was in the pile too, and I'm like, that's worth money. And they're like, what? I'm like, that is worth money. You guys need to actually find a buyer and sell it. Don't just give it, because they were gonna give it to me, and I'm like, as neat as it is, as much as I want it, that's worth a couple $100.
Right.
And
right.
So yeah, that was also when I stopped buying Glamour Puss, because I wasn't getting new issues of Glamour Puss because they weren't ordering new comics for me.
Right.
So I managed to get 1 and 3 on the secondary market, but that's it. I only own issues 1 and 3, and once every couple months somebody goes, "Hey, is there any chance of getting a collection of this?" And it's like, no.
Right.
I mean, unless we did a Kickstarter and kickstarted it, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, this always comes back to the same situation of it's just not that popular a thing. Dave Sim, Cerebus, which is why we're taking the approach that we're taking right now, which is, okay, Cerebus #1 seems to have juice to it. It's you can always sell Cerebus number 1 in some form. And I think with the Cerebus number 2 Kickstarter just ending, it's like it didn't do as well as Cerebus number 1, but it did pretty good. I mean, it's now it's a situation of, okay, how long is it going to take to do the fulfillment on it? And I'm not going to take the money on it until the fulfillment is done, because I stick to that rule until people are getting what they ordered in the mail. I'm not going to Aardvark Anaheim not going to take money on it. Then it's okay. I think I get Aardvark Anaheim gets a third, so it would be $12,000, a little over $12,000 US. How long does it take the fulfillment to get done? Dagan's talking about Marquee will be able to print them by the end of November. So at that point, you're talking about, okay, instead of $12,000, it's $6,000 a month. And if it takes longer than October and November, then it's it's going to be proportionately less than that. This is not kidney-shaped swimming pool in Hollywood time. It's like it's enough money to keep going. So definitely, we're going to be doing a Kickstarter for a remastered number 3, and I'll add in some new content to that one, and we'll see. Okay, does it? The question is always, does it level off, and where does it level off? If we have a guaranteed $35,000 on each remastered issue, then we'll keep going. But I can pretty much guarantee that isn't going to happen. It'll be we did well with number 1, we did less well with number 2, probably do less well with number 3. At some point we go, well, okay, we can't really justify the time and energy and attention that we're putting into this. The ridiculous extreme becomes, I could probably do better just every day I get up to work 6 days a week. I do a Cerebus sketchbook cover, and I send those to Heritage Auction, and they auction them off and send me however much money came in on it. And the one that I sent to them, I don't even know what it was, but I think it was at the time that I was doing the wash Cerebus with the ink over top. That went for $500. So it's like, okay, I may find out. I'm just overthinking this. There's not a large enough Cerebus fandom. There's not enough Cerebus fans to really keep remastered editions and digitizing everything going. So that's going to be something that's going to happen when I die and Eddie Kana takes over. And Grandpa, in the meantime, is just going to do his Cerebus sketchbook covers. And, what else can I do? I'm going to recreate the baby throwing page, because the baby throwing page is money in the bank. And just send all of these, one page at a time to Heritage Auction. I'm trying not to do that, which is, it's like right now, Rolly is scanning all of the remaining artwork, and I'm paying him, his hourly rate to scan artwork and send the digital files to Sean, and then I'm schlepping the pages from the off-site location to the off-White House to Camp David, and Rolly's taking them to Camp David and scanning them, and then they go back again through the process. We still have reads.
No. Reads should be done.
Well, reads should be done, but this is where Rolly's looking at Sean's spreadsheet and going, I'm not seeing these things on Sean's spreadsheet. So it's like, well, okay, if it's not on Sean's spreadsheet, then we'll just keep doing them until we've done them so many times that they are now registering everywhere. And we can say, okay, all of the artwork has been scanned, all of the negatives have been scanned, and the rare occasion, as we already had happen just a little while ago, here's a page where don't have the artwork, don't have negatives. Sean will just have to remaster it from the printed copy.
Well, I was going to say, but Reed's got remastered, so it should be scanned, right?
Should be. I just do as I'm told. It's I don't like arguing with Rolly, and I don't like arguing with Sean or getting into situations where I'm in between on a situation. I'm assuming that if Sean gets a bunch of scans that he's already got, then he will tell Rolly, I don't need these, and update the spreadsheet, and we'll just keep going on whatever hasn't been done. But that's a good example of this is not a priority. I'm a working guy at age 65, trying to make a living and keep a roof on the off-White House and maintain all of the stuff until I die. But there's not a lot of money in any of this. There's more money now than there has been. I mean, Dagan is the U.S. dollar rainmaker with his Kickstarters. But we have to. I have to keep reconfiguring and rethinking everything, because whatever worked 6 months ago or a year ago doesn't work anymore. So okay, now we got to come up with another way to bring in enough money to pay the property taxes, pay the insurance, pay the heat and light bill, and all of those things like that there. And like I say, it's Dave Sim redrawing images from Cerebus #1. That's really about the only thing. And Spawn 10 and Turtles #8, and that's it. That's all Cerebus is, as far as most people are concerned. And apart from that, we've got 349 people who participated in the Cerebus #2 Kickstarter, and 129 people that participated in the Cerebus Archive portfolio #9 that we just did, and that's it. I've been assuming all along that that's just one of those cancel culture steamroller things that it's very, very difficult to keep going when the politically correct people, and I will call them feminists because I think that's where the problem originates, make it very, very difficult to make even a modest living at something. So I want to whatever extent is possible, maintain everything for however many years I've got left, pass it on to Eddie Kana, and then he will maintain it for however many years he has left. And maybe somewhere up ahead, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, when there's been, a half dozen presidents of Aardvark Van Eyck, people will go, hey, maybe we should stop doing this. Maybe instead of trying to destroy Cerebus and destroy Dave Sim's memory, maybe we should actually look at it and see what's actually here, as opposed to what the knee-jerk cancel culture people tell us is here, that we automatically default to destroying.
Well, the three things that the fandom asks for the most, and it's the list that we go over every time this comes up, but I'll do it one more time. Just for the record, it's people want hardcovers, and we know hardcovers but they're not feasible because we're not Marvel. If you were Marvel, you could do hardcovers out the wazoo and it wouldn't matter.
Right.
But you're not Marvel. You're Aardvark Vanaheim. The next,
which is again just to emphasize it, like microscopic by comparison. It's not just orders of magnitude. It's no, this thing has been destroyed in the comic book environment, and we're just darned lucky to have 120 people or 350 people who want to support it as opposed to destroy it. Sorry, I interrupted.
Look, the next thing is a collection of Cerebus Archive comes up regularly. So my question there is, if the series had continued, how many more issues do you think you would have done before you got to here's Cerebus number 1?
I had already pretty much gotten to that in terms of, I think, the issue that had
the logo?
The first logo, the first logo design, the Cerebus icon that I drew for Cerebus the fanzine for Aardvark Vanaheim Press. That was okay. This is where Cerebus shows up for the first time, but there's a fair amount of history there before you get to Cerebus number 1 per se, the comic book. And even when you get to Cerebus number 1, the comic book, it's just the splash page that I had done, thinking, hey, I think everybody's missing what the success is of Howard the Duck. That it's a funny animal in the world of humans. Everybody was doing a lot of funny animal titles, but they were all complete funny animal titles. Let's try a funny animal in the world of humans and see if that hits the hot button. And trying to get Mike Friedrich at Starreach interested in that. So that's the problem. If you actually tell the story the way that it happened, people want this overnight success thing. And it's like, this has been limping along since 1977, providing a pretty good living, like really good living, I would say, in late 1890s or 1980s, 1990s. But surfacing at that point and then submerging again so that it became a hand-to-mouth existence. So it's one of those, when you ask about the Cerebus archive in that sense, like how long would it take to get to Cerebus number 1? It's like, I don't know. I tell, this is this part of the story, and then the next part of the story follows that. The next part of the story follows that, and I'll get to it when I get to it. And that's an impossible sell with even with the Cerebus fans, let alone sitting in some publisher's office going, okay, we want to finance you doing this story. It's like, no, you probably don't, because it's not going to work that way. It's the same situation with Strange Death of Alex Raymond. I'm sitting down and doing it. Back to mocking up pages, I can average about 3 pages a week. Some weeks I only get 1 done. Some weeks I only get 2 done. But I have to do it sequentially. I have to explain this thing so that I can explain that thing, which then leads to this thing, which then brings in another surprise that I didn't anticipate. All I could say if I was talking to Strange Death of Alex Raymond fans, which could be the situation after December 1st, if the street date holds and the book actually becomes available and has any kind of success. If I was talking to an Alex Raymond Rip Kirby fan, which there are almost none of those either, I could say, okay, well, you know the IDW collections. I'm working on Bleak Prospects, and I've worked all the way through Bleak Prospects, and I now have to do the Marcel character as Alex Raymond, explaining that, which I'm figuring that would take like 2 or 3 pages, and then I have to talk about why the Bleak Prospect storyline had some of the best brushed artwork Alex Raymond ever did, right up to the last 2 weeks, when all of a sudden it changed into bare outline inking and spotted in solid blacks, which persisted into Terror on the Thames. And here's a couple of theories that I have about why that happened, but it's this completely bizarre thing. At that point, everybody is shut down except me. Because it's like, I'm the only one that knows what I'm talking about. And Eddie Conant knows what I'm talking about, because he's been with me on this long, hard slog for the last 10 years. And that's just how it has to be done. It's the same way that I did Cerebus, one page at a time, and I focus on that, and now I go on to the next page. And unfortunately, when you have the knee-jerk reaction of, well, this sucks, then okay, that's you just killed the thing, because that's the only way that it could possibly exist. I interrupted again. Now
well,
you have the third.
The third thing is a collection of following Cerebus, which I know the rights for that are tied up with Craig Miller's estate, and John from Windmill is putting Spectrum up online, and somebody's, well, you could ask him. He's. I'm like, but everything I understand, that was Craig's baby, not necessarily John's.
Yeah, that gets into families again. Like the intention that Craig Miller had was that Jennifer Miller, his daughter, would inherit everything that he had, but Jennifer was the object of a extremely adversarial child custody battle between Craig and his ex-wife. So essentially, I'm adopting the same posture, which is from the printed copies of Following Cerebus. They could be remastered relatively easily. It's very, very crisp printing, and then it would be Jennifer Miller's. But I don't think Jennifer Miller even goes by Miller anymore. She's using her mother's name. I'm not sure that her mother would even refer to Craig or anything that Craig did. And that's unfortunately the situation with family as default legal setting. Families are usually the worst custodian of anything, not because of any basic malice on their part, just complete disinterest. These are very specialized interests. The same thing with comic art news and reviews. People are asked, well, what about those earliest interviews that you did? Why don't you do a collection of those? It's like, well, because that belongs to John Valje's estate, and as far as I know, John Valje died intestate, which means the family became the custodians of it, and basically end up, how long are we going to keep renting John's apartment and going through all of this crap? Let's, give away all of his clothes to the Goodwill, throw all of this stuff in the dumpster, take whatever insurance money he had or whatever, split it up among the family, and that's it. That's John's legacy. There's nothing I can do about that. I gave copies of as far as I know, I'm one of the few people that has copies of Comic Art News and Reviews. I went to the funeral, and I gave custody of it to David Balget and said, John didn't want the material reproduced for some reason, but it exists. It's now in your custody, and you have to make the decisions about it. And that's really where that one was left. This is one of the reasons that I advocate. Who is your biggest fan of your work? Leave it to him, because he's the only one that's going to care enough about it to actually do the right thing with it, which is, to make sure that it's maintained. He knows what it is that he's looking at, and he will preserve it for future Cerebus fans. Families just don't have that level of interest. It's like this was whatever Dad worked on, so that in Jennifer's case, he didn't have time to play Barbie with me. So that's the level of interest. This is I don't know about Cerebus. I don't really care about Cerebus, but unfortunately, she is the custodian of following Cerebus. I don't think anybody would do anything about it if somebody wants to scan all of following Cerebus and put it on a moment of Cerebus. But that's the situation of, you can't sell this because there's not enough people to buy it. How many of the 125 Cerebus fans who support all of these things would buy a collection of following Cerebus? Most of them have following Cerebus. They might be missing an issue or two, but that's fine. They've got the original magazine.
So last spring, when I was in lockdown with the kids because they couldn't go to school and I was getting paid to stay home and take care of them and do online schooling, I started to scan all the pages for Cerebus Companion 1 and 2 and following Cerebus 1 through 12, because I'm like, I'm gonna scan.
You didn't.
I didn't get all of them done before I had to go back to work in June, but I got the first Cerebus Companion 1 and 2 done and like half the issues of following Cerebus.
Right.
And my intention is I'm scanning this so I can have it digitally, and then I was putting it through a digital reader that would make it so that it was converted to a text file so I could find what I was looking for. Because I invariably run into, which issue was that? Was it 4? Was it 5? Was it 3? Was it 2? So my intention was, when I got it done, was to give copies to the few people that have asked of, hey, can I get does anybody know where we can get this?
Right. Let's tackle the problem from that side. How many people want this? And at the very worst, I could pay Rolly to go find a photocopier with 10 cents a copy or 25 cents a copy. Here's your pile of Cerebus Companion following Cerebus photocopies. I don't know what to do about it.
Well, the way I look at it is, it's like the A Moment of Service library. You can check out whatever you want, but it's got to come back. Nobody's making money on this. We're just, you can borrow it. So already it's happened 2 or 3 times where somebody's been looking for something from an old issue of Following Cerebus, and I happen to have a scan. So okay, here you go. Here's the file. Here's the pages relevant to what you want. John P. Cook from Back Issue Magazine, or Comic Book Artist Magazine, they were doing a feature on Barry Windsor Smith, and he was looking for the interview you did with Barry Windsor Smith. And I'm like, I have that.
Right.
That was one of the issues I hadn't scanned yet, so okay, here, I'll scan the pages that are that are into this. Scan the back cover, which has got the photo of the two of you from a convention. Scan the next issues about last issue where you correct Craig and John about what they said about that photo that was wrong, and send it all to John P. Cook. And we're thanked in the issue of Comic Book Artist, I think it's number 25, where they have this big spread on Barry Windsor Smith. Nothing I sent made the issue because the direction of the issue went in a different area, and John says that, but we still get thanked by name, and I'm like, good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those situations where I would think if there's somebody that should have all of following Cerebus, it's John B. Cook, because he's like this linchpin presence with the Tomorrow's magazine of if this comes up, here's your best place to be able to research it. Same thing with all of the digital trade paperbacks. That gets into funny areas of, okay, I don't own the rights to Comic Art News and Reviews. I don't own the rights to Following Cerebus, but this is a scholastic angle. In terms of John B. Cook is one of those encyclopedic guys where, yes, if he's going to do something on Barry Windsor Smith, he's pretty sure that we would have something on that, which we do. The problem being is that it's not purely scholastic, because John B. Cook makes money off of Comic Book Artist and the other Tomorrow's publications. So that you can't do that, because it's, well, now you're taking something that somebody owns and giving it to somebody else to make money off of, when that hasn't been licensed to them. And it's like, can we all just get a grip here in terms of obsessing about these things? It's like anything in the digital end of things, yes, John B. Cook should have them, whatever he has. I would go as far as I would get Rolly to scan all of the Comic Art News and Reviews stuff and send it to John B. Cook, because it is first generation comic history stuff. It's things from the time period, 1970s, that I don't remember, that I wrote when I was 16 years old, and researched when I was 16 years old. Because we all know, like, you send somebody a digital file on something, most people don't want to read stuff on their computer, so they're going to print it out on their printer anyway. Like, let's deal with the situation as it exists, as opposed to this idealized. You can't transfer possession of something that you don't own to someone in digital form unless they're a university or a college or something like that. That's just a little too pure for words, I think. So that's when Dave Sim goes, look, let's deal with the situation as it actually is. If you're ever inclined to continue scanning all of your copies of Following Cerebus and Cerebus Companion, and God bless you if you are, just send them to John B. Cook. Here's not an encyclopedic history of Cerebus, but anything that you'd be looking for is in here, and you'll be able to find it. And Tomorrow's should have that.
Well,
so that's my take on it.
The fun part of the project was when I was missing issue number 10 of Following Cerebus, because I bought it along with 4 other comics, and the bag never made it home.
Wow. A mystery.
Well, and so I said something, and it turned out Margaret had an extra copy, so I bought it from her. And then she sent me her copy of issue number 9. By the way, thanks for that, Dave. because she was going to scan her copies in, and she got a second copy of number 9 so that she could break the spine apart so that the pages would lay flat, and gave up scanning it halfway through because what kind of crazy person would do this?
Now we're into the mental health thing again.
Yeah, and so she sent me, she's like, well, here, you can have this, you don't have to ruin your copy, and I'm like, well, thanks for that, but at the same time, let's do a book-length, extra, square-bound edition for number 9, because this is a very interesting conversation with Neil Adams, but at the same time, wrap it up, Dave. This is above 48 pages. I don't want to scan all this.
Right, and that's me being obsessive because, okay, if I'm going to visit the whole situation of Dave Sim and Neil Adams, I'm only going to visit it once, and I'm going to exhaust it because that's the other thing that you have to do. It's like, if you're the only one that knows this stuff, then you're going to have to visit it all at some time. That brings us back to Cerebus Archive, the comic book again, of I will do this, but if there's not a market for it, and all you're going to be doing is irritating the people who then are trying to preserve the material. Like you say, that's a lot of scanning to do issue 9 of Following Cerebus. Each of the Following Cerebuses is a lot of scanning relative to the level of interest.
When I was doing it, I got it down to a science of put the black piece of construction paper behind the page I'm scanning, put it in the scanner, line it up, scan it, flip it to the other side of the opposite page, move the construction paper, scan that. So half the scans are upside down because it's just the easiest way to do it.
Right.
Then open them in my Photoshop knockoff, flip them 180 degrees, realize that the pages are at an angle for some reason, so now I have to slowly correct it so they're straight. And it got to the point where if I scan something and it scans straight, I did a little happy dance. Oh, it's the same thing. When I get the Monday report, I trim the facts down so it's just so the borders are taken off so that the print's a little bigger. And all the images I put onto A Moment of Service are 640 pixels wide. And when I'm cropping the faxes, if I hit exactly 640, you'd think I won the lottery.
Yeah, you couldn't pay somebody to do that. You literally could not pay somebody.
No, you could pay somebody, but that's a Kickstarter that's going to need some seriously deep pockets back in it.
That's right, because nobody's quite as messed up in the head as Matt Dow when it comes to Cerebus and Cerebus-related things. I just realized I got the prayer times are getting earlier and earlier. It's 25 to 7, so I got about 10 or 15 minutes here. We're going to come full circle because Michael's got a PS on his question, his series of questions, and I want to cover that real quick. I heard about the passing of Jeff Seiler on Saturday's AMA. R.I.P. Jeff. I hardly ever interacted with Jeff. I can't remember a time that Jeff did not come to your defense on AMA. That's very true, but there were also times when Jeff would give me grief on AMA and everybody else would come to my defense. Jeff could be, could be accidentally irritating. I think we're both in agreement on that. And one of the times that happened was when we first started serializing Cerebus in Hell online, which was going to be our chosen medium. And Sandeep and I have been working on this for 6 months. Now everybody is finally getting to see our hard work. And I hope people think it's funny. I hope we get some LOLs. And what did we get? Jeff Seiler correcting our punctuation and our grammar. Day your humor and your ability to appeal to people with humor, that's going to do it. And nothing I could do about that. It's a free country. I'm pretty sure he commented. Michael goes on. I'm pretty sure he commented on a comment I made here and there on Emma. He did so with practically everyone. Yes, that's true. Jeff Seiler was your ideal participatory fan. You definitely want somebody who is always giving you more content online on a daily basis. And I've forgotten this part, number 2. I did name his penguin Pepe Lemieux that he had given to you. And Pepe is still out back at Camp David, sitting on my old typewriter, because there's no, I think Rolly went, okay, I have no idea where to store Dave Sim's original typewriter now that he's not using a typewriter anymore, and I don't know what to do with Pepe Lemieux, so let's put them both on top of the stool that we never use. And so I always see that out back at Camp David. If I remember next week, I'll get Rolly to take a photo of Pepe Lemieux perched on top of Dave's typewriter on the stool that Rolly and I never use. Number 3, in one of the Cerebus in Hell with the question marks, through one of the Kickstarters, I believe Jeff had pledged to have 4 pages drawn into an issue. Yes, he did. I remember correcting a misspelling of a New York Yankee, Greg, G-R-A-I-G, not Greg, G-R-E-G, Nettles. I can't remember the issue, and I can't remember if he misspelled it or you. I'm guessing Jeff. And it's like, no, I was the one that misspelled that one, although I got the story from Jeff. And as you say, it was in Super Cerebus Annual number 1. And I'm going to forget all about this because I've got a prayer time. Can you let Sean or Benjamin know that we need that corrected in the Swords of Cerebus in Hell volume, because I forgot all about that one. And if we correct it now, then it will stay permanently corrected. G-R-A-I-G Nettles, not G-R-E-G Nettles. And it's definitely in with the pledge strips. And last salute to Jeff Seiler for this Please Hold for Dave Sim. If you can go into those strips in the back of Super Cerebus Annual number 1, and I think Jeff would want one last appearance for his cat, not Yusuf, not the cat that he had when he died, but Pud, who was a giant gray cat, the biggest cat in the state of Minnesota. If you can just scan that panel from Super Cerebus Annual number 1, it was I think a good year or year and a half after Pud died that I find out where the name came from, which was Putty Tat, the Sylvester name from the Warner Brothers cartoons. Jeff had shortened that from Putty to Pud, P-U-D, but he took Pud to the veterinarians, and they went, we can't put down the name Pud. It's like, well, it's not Pud, it's Pud. And they went, okay, well, we're going to spell it P-O-O-D because P-U-D means something else. So, consequently, P-U-D became P-O-O-D, even though in all of our hearts and minds, Pud was actually P-U-D, Pud. And that'll do it for Please Hold for Dave Sim for October.
Okay.
All right. I'm off to my prayer time. Say hi to Paula and to Janice Pearl and Bullwinkle, and we'll do this again in November.
Yes, we will, and we'll probably open with Jeff's cat because I have a Jeff's cat story.
Okay, good. We'll just keep Jeff Seiler's memory alive at least at the beginning of each month. Where neither of us going to run out of Jeff Seiler stories anytime soon.
Most likely.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too. Have a good night, Dave.
Take care, Matt. Bye-bye.
And that, my friends, is Please Hold for Dave Sim for October 2021. Hope everybody had a good time. Hope we had some laughs. Hope we all cried just a little bit. Just a little. And last one out, turn out the light. Oh, wait. That's right. There's a secret message for members of the Little Orphan Aardvark Secret Society from Little Orphan Aardvark herself. Set your decoder bookmarks to code JS. Alright, everybody got their pens ready? Remember, this is from Little Orphan Aardvark herself. Aardvark is depending on you. L. Yin Yang. 5. Hashtag. Spade. K. 5. Space. A. Spade. 0. Space. P. V. L. Yin Yang. A. Copyright. Space. D. Spade. Diamond. Space. L. Space. 03. Copyright. Yin Yang. 05. Aquarius. Space. 0. V. Copyright. Space. Infinity. L. B. V. E. Yin Yang. Copyright. Space. E. Yin Yang. Space. 0. V. Copyright. Space. Hashtag Diamond. Copyright. L. I. Diamond. Spade. Spade. Infinity. Space. 3. Spade. Yin Yang. Capricorn. 0. Space. 0. L. I. Copyright. Space. 0. V. E. Skull and Crossbones. Space. Spade. Yin Yang. Copyright. Sagittarius, Sagittarius, Sagittarius. Remember, Aardvark is counting on you. And as soon as I mail out your decoder wheels,